Hey guys, welcome back to Stumblin Forward. Thanks for listening or watching. I'm one of your hosts, Monica Ortega.
And I'm Kristen Herman.
And today we have a super special guest. So Alice Ford is a stunt woman and a Telly award-winning host, producer, and adventure filmmaker. In her award-winning series, Alice's Adventures, she's documented indigenous cultures, national parks, and World Heritage sites. With a master's degree in environmental management, she's on a mission to share her love for adventure, travel, and green living with all she comes in contact with. She's also starred in some big Hollywood blockbusters as a stuntwoman, including Transformers 4, Star Trek 3, and Entourage, to name a few. In 2015, she started her company, Travganic. Hope I said that right.
Yep.
Okay, cool. To bring sustainable tourism to more people around the world. She's currently splitting her time between making films, adventure filmmaking, and writing about some of the more than 30 countries she's visited and booking sustainable trips for people. Oh my goodness, welcome to the show, Alice. I'm tired of just going through that. My goodness. Talk about accomplishments.
When I read the whole thing, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this girl has done so much. And I'm like, I love everything that she's done. And I'm like, she's such a badass. She's got like, I can snowboard and I can ski and I can do this. And I was like, I'm a stunt woman. I'm like, oh my God.
Alice, can we just be you in another life?
Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, ladies. I'm really glad to be here. And yeah, after listening to that intro, I was like, wow, I've done a lot of things.
I'm kind of awesome. I feel like you have so many like stories and inspirational stuff to share. So I'm really excited that you decided or agreed to be on the show. So thanks for coming.
For sure.
Of course. I'm so glad to be here.
So I guess start off, tell us a little bit about yourself that we didn't cover, anything you just want to share and let people know.
Yeah. Well, you gave me a great intro, so thank you. Yeah, I mean, you kind of summed it up. I mean, I have had a lot of careers, I guess, in my not so short life. You know, I got into tourism. I was in sales actually in college, worked for Vitamin Water. That was like my first big job. Then I actually opened 2 bars and restaurants in Savannah, Georgia. Went on to work at the Atlantis in the Bahamas. And then from there, like got into stunts, got into starting my own YouTube channel and filmmaking and that kind of stuff. So definitely like evolved from a lot of different things, but travel has always been like the backbone of, you know, everything that I love, as well as like the environment, sustainability, and nature. So now I kind of like tie all those things together, and I obviously get to, you know, bring my athletic background into what I do with, you know, the movie world. So I'm like definitely like a busybody at heart.
Yeah. I'm like, do you sleep?
Yeah. Ever?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So how you have the degree in environmental
management,
mm-hmm. And you've opened bars and you've done all the travel stuff and you've been to 30 countries. So where did like the stunt portion come in? Because I feel like usually that's like a dream from a kid and then people follow it to being a stunt person.
Because obviously we saw that you were very athletic as a child. Like, you know, you've done a lot of things when growing up, and being in a family that is very adventurous themselves, you probably were like, I just like activity. But yeah, when was the stunt stuff come? Did you just jump out of a tree one day and like, you know what? I landed on my feet. I think I can do this.
So the story's kind of funny. I mean, I guess growing up, like I was such a tomboy. I competed in gymnastics. I competed in track and field, skiing, springboard diving in college. So like definitely just did like a whole host of sports growing up. And I loved like adventure races. And like, I mean, if there was like a contest doing anything, I would enter. But then yeah, in college, I competed in 3 sports. Then when I got out of college, I kept pole vaulting for like a long time, tried to make the Olympic team in 2012, actually.
The story
oh my God. just like one day I just decided to try for the Olympics.
Sorry. Kristen and I are fangirling over here. Sorry, continue.
I feel like the video is going to be hilarious for this, because all of a sudden it's just going to be like, what? Like, what are you what? Okay.
Sorry.
We're
So
gonna
I fell a little short doing that, and that I guess rewind a little. So in college, I went to University of Vermont, then I went to University of Arizona to finish my degree. While I was there, I was in a like long-term relationship. We moved to Savannah, Georgia after I graduated, and then we opened 2 bars, and then I got a job in the Bahamas.
So who's we? So you said
So
like,
this ex-boyfriend and I,
okay, cool.
that I'm no longer speak to.
I was gonna be like another like big person. That's cool.
So then I went and worked in the Bahamas for a year, and I left there because I wanted to get back into pole vaulting because I had been doing it in Georgia, but then when I took this job, I couldn't really continue it. So I ended up meeting another guy. There's a lot of men in this story, but
okay. Trust me, we all have those stories.
I moved to New Orleans, where I started working as like an extra, like a background extra. And I was also like doing a little bit of hosting here and there and some other things, and also pole vaulting. And I ended up just like meeting through like kind of odd jobs, like some stunt people. And they were like, "Oh my God, you'd be really good at stunts. Like you should try getting into it." And I was like, "Yeah, what's like a stunt person?" And I honestly had like no idea that it was a job or anything. And so I started just like meeting some people that were in the industry. And that summer of that same year, I ended up getting this like random job in Italy for a month through USA Track and Field, which is like the governing body that deals with like competitive track and field athletes. Since I was competing, they sent out like this mass email that like I think went to my junk mail that was like, "Hey, we have an opportunity for a couple of competitive runners to go to Italy and run on top of this tank, this army tank, in an art exhibit in Venice, Italy," which like you're like, I think most people were probably like, "That's definitely not real," and got rid of it. And I was like, "That sounds amazing, and I don't care if it's fake, but I am applying for that." And so I sent them an email and I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to come. I'm free like for whatever dates in the summer." And they were like, "Great, we'd love to have you." And I flew to Italy for a month and ran on top of this overturned tank. And at that job, there was another gentleman there that was performing in another exhibit that was part of this art exhibit at La Biennale, which is one of the largest modern art exhibits in the world. And they have like a symposium from every country. And so for America, it was like this overturned tank. And then there was like another part, which was airplane seats. And they had Olympic gymnasts performing this like weird choreographed routine. Well, that guy happened to be on a TV show in Los Angeles, and it was called Make It or Break It. And I was like,
I know Make It or Break It.
and so I was like, "Oh my God, that's so cool that you're on Make It or Break It. I was a gymnast. I can still flip. Like, I would love to find out more about it." And he was like, "Oh my God, if they come back for another season, you know, I'll connect you with the people and you can send them your stuff. And if it works out and you are what you say you are, you know, maybe you'll get a spot." And I was just like, "Okay," just like, "Sure." And then this guy actually followed through, and like 3 months later was like, "Hey, they're casting for the show. Send me a tape and I'll send it to the people." And so I did. And then they ended up hiring me on Make It or Break It. And that's how I got into stunts.
Wow. That's insane.
And
That's
okay,
insane.
so for our listeners right now, you're actually in Atlanta, Georgia, working on a film. Can you say what film?
Yeah, so I'm working on Spider-Man right now, and in Atlanta.
Just in case you haven't realized badass yet.
You know, with great power, comes great responsibility, I hear. Anyway.
Again, like people, you know, they dream of this their whole life and they work towards stunts, where for you, you kind of fell into it, but your real passion is hosting and travel. And so you found ways to like literally make money doing stunts to do these passion projects, right? And that's how Alice's Adventure started.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess just one more thing on stunts. Like I trained for like a good 2 years also to like make sure that I, like before I even got my first job. So like it was by chance that I got my first job, but I also was like already kind of, my path was going that way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, stunts has definitely been like a catalyst for me to be able to also like follow my passions and like create, because my first really big job in stunts was actually Transformers 4. And on that job, I got to go to all these countries in Asia. Like we went to China and Hong Kong. And after that, I actually traveled with my now boyfriend, Andrew, and we went to Cambodia and Bali and Borneo and Australia and actually filmed my first ever pilot there for World Heritage Adventures. And that's kind of what started my whole like YouTube and Alice's Adventures. And that's when I started my website and doing all of that. So if I hadn't gone on that movie, I don't know if I would have had the like kick in the rear to like go after my dreams.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure, as you guys know, or maybe even a lot of people listening, like I grew up in a really small town. I didn't know anything about Hollywood. I was just like, okay, well, I want to be a host. So hopefully if I just like take all these little small jobs, hopefully someday somebody will just discover me and I can get a job as the next Samantha Brown on the Travel Channel. And, you know, I think we both know, you know, it doesn't really work like that, you know? But that was kind of like my naive thought of, oh, well, hopefully I'll just get an audition one day and it'll be the right thing. And so Andrew actually encouraged me many years ago to be like, hey, if you want to make a travel show or you want to be on a travel show, you need to like go and make a travel show yourself. There's mediums for you to be able to go out and do that. So just start putting stuff together, start shooting stuff, start putting yourself on tape. And I was like, yeah, okay, I should do that. I'm not, you know, no one's going to find me in my garage. So that's kind of the kick that I needed to start creating. And it's been like 8 years now, and I've grown and learned so much about, you know, every process of editing, filmmaking, hosting, being a better host, because I was pretty terrible in the beginning.
I don't think that's true. But honestly, like when you're going back to the stunt thing, you said that you did gymnastics as a kid, right?
Yep.
And so honestly, like that probably was just such a big thing. And were you ever thinking when you did gymnastics that that you also, like while you were doing that, you wanted to be a host? Was that like around the same time that you were thinking like hosting, even though you were doing gymnastics? Because in my mind, gymnastics is so important to stunt, you know? And then when you go into that, it's like, you know, good for you for just going and doing the 2 years of like hard training.
Yeah. I mean, I think growing up and doing gymnastics my whole life, like I've always just really loved performing, right? Because you are out there like doing routines and kind of like showing off. And I just always loved like being creative, making people laugh also. And I guess the big thing for me in my YouTube show or in Alice's Adventures is like also like the learning behind it. And as growing up as a kid, I also just loved like planning trips. So I think it's like a culmination of everything that kind of came together to do that. But I also had parents that just like loved the outdoors. We were always out hiking or like exploring. My dad was like very into conservation, and so he was always teaching me about like different plants and mushrooms and trees and ecology and things like that. And so I love to like, I guess I just like, it's like I love like dinner parties. I like if I could just host a dinner party.
Dinner party in the mountains.
Yeah, there you
but
go.
in the mountains, you know, it's like, all right, guys, come to my table in the woods.
Honestly, like you probably would know more about what to eat in the woods than we would. So I mean, there you go. We would probably know.
So, all right, you got stunts, you got Alice's Adventures, and then you started Travganic?
Yeah, so I started Travganic back in 2015, and this was really brought from both like my passion for travel and my passion for ecotourism, but also because one of the things that I always do when I travel is like I try to look for sustainable hotels or eco tours, and it's always been really difficult to find them. You have to go to like a gajillion different websites. And so I wanted to create a space for people to be able to just go to a website and find like reputable companies, reputable hotels, reputable tour operators that I knew would be sustainable, that were, you know, fair trade, that were supporting like local communities and indigenous groups and not ruining the environment. So that's why I created Tropganic. And we still have like a lot of growth to do, which is like one of my goals for the next couple of years, you know, just to grow that into a bigger company and have more tour operators and more hotels. But I guess for people listening, basically Tropganic is a marketplace for people like you and me or other travelers that want to find hotels and tour companies and even vacation rentals at places that they're traveling to that are certified sustainably. And it's a reputable place that you can go, that if you want to, you know, travel to the Amazon, or you want to climb Kilimanjaro, or you want to go on a safari, you can go on there and find companies that are not only equitable, like fair trade, giving good wages, but they're protecting the environment. They might have like conservation initiatives or educational components that they're giving back to the community, and they're also like minimizing the amount of like waste they create, the amount of water they waste, and other things like that.
I honestly really admire that. Like, that's something that I feel I wish that I could just bring into, you know, my life just constantly. And I think that traveling, like, even if Monica and I ever go anywhere, you know, we would love to be able to like make sure that the place that we're staying is eco-friendly as possible. So that's really a great resource.
Finding out after we get back, and like somebody comments or somebody reaches out and they're like, this is a terrible place, and we're like, oh, we didn't know. So,
yeah, not being able to do the research, and honestly like being able to start, like, you know, I don't know, when were you able to really put that into your own YouTube show? Like, when were you able to really be like, you know what, I want this to be a part of it, and I want Tropganic to be something that can be utilized by other people who are traveling? When did you start that?
Yeah, so I mean, I launched the company, or I guess the company was kind of like thought of in like 2015. So I think the website went live in maybe 2016. And then I guess as far as incorporating it, when I travel or I take trips, I always ask and I guess make sure that like the tourism boards that I work with and the brands that I work with align really closely with my goals and sustainability. And so that's always like a big component in any sort of like trips or companies that I work with, and people know that right up front. And even like if, you know, if people look at my Instagram or my YouTube channel, the companies that even I like do brand collaborations with are going to have sustainability components within them. I just think it's really important, especially in this like fast fashion, fast travel, fast everything world, that, you know, it's really important to dig a little deeper with places. And even, you know, I think like 4 years ago, I went to Portugal. I stayed at all sustainable hotels. It's just something that I like to make sure that I share with my audience, because I'm out promoting nature and getting out in the outdoors. And I think you shouldn't do that and tell people to get outside in nature or go for a hike unless you're telling them, hey, if you're going to come and explore this area, you need to leave no trace. And
yeah,
you know, or if you want to come and experience even like Chicago, you know, there's a lot of hotels, but there's actually a lot in Chicago that are super sustainable, like Blue Aqua, I think is one. There's a lot of brands, if you know the right brands, that are protecting the planet in a better way. And so I like to highlight those brands. So there are times when I travel that I might stay at like a comfort inn or something, but I'm probably not going to talk about it on social media.
Yeah.
No, I like that.
Okay, so you've done a million things. I feel like, I mean, our show is mostly for like entrepreneurs and people that are in the middle of a journey, whether it's going to something creative like film industry or travel or opening a business. You've done all of that. So, what kind of advice do you have? What mistakes have you made along the way? Like, I feel like you have so much knowledge to share.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've made a lot of mistakes. You know, I think in starting anything, especially in starting a business, you know, you learn along the way. You know, nobody knows everything going in unless you're, you know, a seasoned, you know, maybe like entrepreneur that's opened and closed dozens of businesses, like, you know, the sharks on the ABC Shark Tank. Um, but I think for anyone that's looking to start a business, and funnily enough, I'm actually creating a course about this right now that's probably going to launch next year. But
Nice.
I think the most important things are just to like have a plan. First of all, I think making a business plan is like extremely important if you're planning on starting a business. And while a lot of people, I think in today's world are like, well, unless you're trying to go to a bank, you don't need a business plan. I think a business plan is important because it forces you to like look at all the important things, like who or what is your market, like what is your mission statement, what is your vision statement, what is your 5-year plan, like what do you want for the future of your business and where are you looking to go. Because I think a lot of the times, and I've gotten into this too, like you get into this routine of like even creating content, and sometimes you're like, wait, where is the end, where am I going, and you kind of lose sight of even what your goal is. And so I think it's really important to always stay on track. And like there's so many things you can do, like as far as like little checkups throughout the year, like every quarter, even every month, or even every week, to just make sure that like the things that you're doing every day are still aligning with your end goal. So like one of the things that I always share with like people that I'm coaching, or even people that just like want business advice, is like, for an easy thing is like get out a piece of paper, write down everything you do in a day as far as like work stuff, and then like write your goal on the other side of the paper, and then just start looking at stuff like, okay, well, I spend 15 minutes on social media. Well, if social media is part of your brand that you need, then great. But if you're trying to be like, I don't know, like an author of something and you don't need social media, or you're spending too much time, like cross it off. Or you're, I don't know, online shopping, you know, like there's so many things you can remove to make your time more valuable, to make sure that you're actually doing things during your day that are getting you to your goal. And I think that also like collaborating is really important, asking for advice, reaching out to other business owners, other people in your aisle that you're trying to get into, and you know, really just getting as much education as you can. I think LinkedIn is such a great source for people, and you know, even Facebook and Instagram, to be able to just talk to people. I mean, we're here on Zoom. I can't tell you how many people that I've just like reached out to that are so nice, that I'm like, hey, you know, I really love what you're doing. I'd love to find out how you got to where you're going, or, you know, what you did in your process that helped you be successful. And people are generally like really open to sitting down for a Zoom or on a phone call for 15 minutes or 30 minutes to just be like, hey, here's some tips on how I got to where I am. And also don't give up.
That's such advice. I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, the business plan, I did not do that until 4 years into my show. And then I ran into exactly what you said, which is going, what am I actually doing here? What's the plan?
Yeah.
And then it changed things. I mean, looking at it as a business completely changed things. And then I feel like with collaborations, I was really uncomfortable because I felt like, who am I? You know, I don't want to just be one of those people like, gimme, tell me all your stuff. you know, but you're right. There's ways to like collaborate and pick each other's brains without it being like, tell me how you got where you are and then hook me up with all your people. Like, I think there's a way to do it. And that's, I mean, that's great advice.
Yeah. Where do you see Travagenic and Alice's adventures in, like, you know, a few years? Like, where do you really want the ultimate goal to be for those?
Well, I really think that Travaganic, I mean, I would like it to be more of a household name as far as ecotourism goes in 5 years. I'd like to have a much bigger catalog of hotels and vacation rentals and really be like a reputable source for people to be able to go to for sustainable hotels and tours. So that's my goal for Travaganic. And then for Alice's Adventures, I don't know, you know, I would like to have 1 million subscribers on YouTube the next 5 years, and my own show on TV.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, girl.
And also more hosted trips. Sorry, I'm like so thirsty.
That's okay, please.
I'm rotating between coffee and water.
Yeah. Just keep drinking. Drinking coffee at this late at night. Sorry.
Sorry, just let me 1 second. I left my email open, so sorry for the dings.
You're good.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd love to have my own show, and I'd also love to have multiple trips every year that people can come and join me on, where we go to the mountains, we go to different places. You know, that's one of actually my goals for next year, as long as there's, you know, COVID is not like a big issue anymore, is to start having more group trips, starting with one actually in Colorado that I have kind of like penciled in for August of next year, and then hopefully Patagonia in the winter. So,
oh my God, that'd be amazing. That's so awesome. What was your, what do you feel like is a trip that stands out in your mind that you feel like was one of those changing, like inspirational moments just for yourself?
Oh, definitely climbing Kilimanjaro. Just because it was really difficult. And then honestly, like the last day is so challenging. You go through like every emotion, because I think like the lack of oxygen, and then you're exhausted because it's a really, really long day. It's like an 18-hour day. You have to start climbing for the summit at like midnight, and you get up there around 8 a.m. and then you have about, you know, 12 hours back down that day also. So it's just really long, and you've been hiking for 6 days and it's freezing. When we went, it was really cold. We had a lot of snow, and I cried at the top, but I also, like, you know, 3/4 of the way up, I wanted to quit. So there was a lot of just like mental challenges, I think, with that trip. So getting to the top and accomplishing it, even though I like accomplished a lot of things, was kind of like a big moment for me in pushing myself forward and accomplishing that.
Those moments are really important to have, especially having to mentally push yourself past that moment of like, can I do this?
Yeah.
You know, it's impressive.
What would be like a bucket list trip or adventure for you?
Oh gosh, I feel like there's so many.
I know, it's a hard question.
Patagonia is definitely one, because I have been wanting to go to do Torres del Paine for a really long time and hike, you know, down there. I've also, a bucket list one is definitely Mount Roraima in Venezuela, which is, it's kind of an area that just inspired The Land of the Lost, the book. And it's basically like this big plateau that sticks up out of the jungle, and it is surrounded by clouds a lot of times, but it has like waterfalls that shoot off the plateau, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Until about 5 or 6 years ago, it was really difficult to get there, but now there's actually tours that can take you. So when Venezuela becomes a little bit safer for Americans, that's definitely on my bucket list as well.
We still need to collaborate. Ever since I met
know.
you, I was like, I have to go adventure with this girl.
I know.
Kilimanjaro, I'm not quite that level yet, but
It might be Colorado. I mean, you never know. I mean, that's
no,
something else.
And Alaska, I want to go to too.
That's my dream.
Um,
Let's do
definitely.
Alaska.
Oh my God, we should.
Yes, please. I've been talking to Megan from Visit Alaska about it. So
Oh, nice. Awesome. Yes.
we'll have to make that.
I have a lot of dreams about Alaska and what I want to do there. I mean, last year I went to Norway twice and got to see the reindeer and, their cousins, the caribou, live in Alaska. So,
So amazing.
Surprised Alaska hasn't been on your list yet. Like, I feel like that,
Well, I actually was planning on going this summer.
And then everything happens. Okay.
So what about stunts? Do you want to continue with that, or is that sort of just a catalyst for other things?
I mean, don't tell any stunt people now.
We can edit that out if you don't want that to be a question.
No, it's fine. No, I love doing stunts, and I see myself continuing to do stunts and stunt coordinating in some fashion and being able to kind of meddle the two together. I mean, one of my real long-term goals is to, if I don't have my own show as a host, is to produce more documentary style films about, wild places and animals and wildlife and start kind of transitioning more into that. And while I love stunts, I will probably at some point transition away from that and get more into wildlife filmmaking and creating stuff that's more life-changing, more educational, more powerful, and really connects people and protects the planet and teaches people more about the world that we're surrounded by and not make believe.
No, I love it. I agree. And I have the same goal. We're going to have to talk after this.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I mean, everything that you've accomplished is awesome. And like, you have so many avenues that you've been, exploring. And where can we find you on social media, and where can people check out everything that you've done?
Well, I have a website you can check out. It's alicesadventuresonearth.com. On YouTube, you can just kind of Google Alice Ford, or it's Alice Ford Adventures is my whole URL on YouTube. But Alice's Adventures on Earth also on Instagram and Facebook. And then Twitter is Alice L. Ford, which, if you just Google Alice Ford, you'll get all my social media handles and my website, and that's a bit easier. So as
well as Travgenic.
Like Travgenic is just travgenic.com. So it's travel and organic.
Okay.
And they had a baby
together. Oh, it's a little eco baby.
That's right.
Okay. Love it. Awesome. Well, I mean, what was that?
I said we'll definitely link to all of that.
Yes, everything's going to be linked for this episode, and we really want to just thank you for taking the time to be on our show and to talk about everything that you've done, including stunts. And it's a really amazing journey that you've been on. So, yeah. And if anybody wants to check out this episode, it's going to be on Apple Podcasts and be on Spotify. Please leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Give us a follow on Spotify. And if you're into watching our faces, it's also on YouTube. So YouTube will be a thing. It's got to do a little of that. But yes, thank you again, Alice. It was just so amazing for you.
I'm so glad to have joined you guys. It's been a wonderful Friday night, and my Friday night, I should say.
Friday night. And my name is Kristen Herman. I'm one of your hosts. And
I'm Monica Ortega. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks.
Bye.